Hey everybody! In today's video, I want to show you a trick for using very detailed stamps like you see in my sample on a very busy background. I am using this SugarPea Designs stamp set today, and I first tried the technique that I'm using with a white pencil, and it didn't give me good enough results. So I'm using a gesso instead that is made for watercolor. And the reason that I chose this particular gesso, because I have 40 squillion containers of different kinds of gesso. It's a magical product. But I chose this watercolor gesso because it's much smoother than typical gesso that you would use in your art journal, etc. And you need the gesso to be smooth because you're going to be stamping over the final result. So I'm taking a terrible paintbrush. I'm not going to lie, this paintbrush is awful. I bought it when I was on the road at Creativation to use in the booth to do watercolor with, and it's horrid for watercolor, so I'm not going to be recommending this paintbrush. But it's great to have a really terrible paintbrush lying around for when you want to do things like this. And it's just fine for this. So just get a cheap paintbrush. Definitely don't use your good watercolor brushes for gesso. But I'm using this terrible tiny paintbrush to just fill in the stamp design. Just being careful not to paint over the edges of the design. And when I get down here to the leaves, because my background is so busy, I wanted to pull out this stamp set and look and make sure that I knew where I was painting, especially over that Peacock Feathers Oxide ink. It gets a little bit hard to tell, so I just put the stamp set next to me and use it as a guide. So now I'll slow down to regular speed here as I finish up painting this. The other cool thing about this gesso is it dries really fast. So you don't have to heat set it, and actually I don't recommend heat setting gesso because you can get bubbling from the latex that's in some of it. Most gesso is very similar to a latex or acrylic paint, and heat and those don't go together all that well. So now that that is completely covered, I have left the stamp image in my MISTI. That's the most important part, because you need to be able to stamp exactly over where the image was before. And I'm using VersaFine Clair Nocturne for this image because it is such a crisp, deep black ink. It won't have any problems covering up the ink and the gesso. So I'll stamp that down on top of there, and I thought I needed to stamp it again, but I don't because that ink is amazing. And there you can see I still have a beautifully detailed image over an extremely busy, wrinkle-free distress background. Thanks so much for watching.